Steak. That's what a man eats.
Made from stuff guys need.
Eat like a man, man.
There's no one that can relate to that better than I do because I've lived in that world. Steak is for man.
Go meat!
They showed us commercials, burgers, George Foreman with the grill.
Yeah.
And the big sandwiches and all that stuff.
Eat like a man and be full like a man.
This is great marketing by the meat industry.
Serious man food.
Selling that idea that real men eat meat.
You look like more of a man with a quarter-pounder in your hand.
But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been vegan since I was 3 years old. And at that age, me and my siblings witnessed fish being killed in a really violent and aggressive way. And it was just absolutely obvious that that was something that we didn't want to participate in and we didn't want to support. To me, it seems obvious. I don't want to cause pain to another living, empathetic creature.
I believe so much in the mission of Beyond Meat that I've stepped in to help with my greatest asset, my taste. This plant-based meat is not only amazingly delicious, but it's also better for you and better for the planet. It's a simple change that makes a really big difference. So good. And now that I'm Beyond Meat's Chief Taste Consultant, there's never been a better time to go beyond.
Plant-based meat, or fake meat as some might call it, is wildly popular, especially on Wall Street.
Fake meat is turning into real profit.
The stock market debut for Beyond Meat went beyond.
The hottest IPO of 2019 so far.
This stock has a cult-like following.
It's going to sweep over the world.
Our mission is very simple. It's to completely replace animals as a food technology by 2035. It's basically a prehistoric technology.
As prehistoric as it is to eat meat, plant-based protein isn't exactly anything new, and neither are plant-based burgers for that matter.
Veggie burgers are here, nutritious and completely meat-free.
So why is it that companies like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods are surging in popularity now?
Only a few short years ago, it seemed like plant-based meats were the way of the future. McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and more were all announcing their own takes on faux meat meals. Big-name investors like Bill Gates, Leo DiCaprio were pouring their wealth into brands like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, and celebrities were giving their coveted seals of approval. But since then, fast food chains have been backing out of deals. Shares have dropped significantly, and the industry hasn't even put a dent into beef sales. So what happened?
For centuries, meat has been the cornerstone of human nutrition. It's what fueled our ancestors, shaped our strength, and helped us thrive. But today, we're told it's bad for our health. Why? What happened to the truth? The answer isn't as simple as you think. Let's uncover the hidden agenda behind the lies and reveal why meat is and always has been essential for our bodies. Let's rewind the clock. Meat has been an integral part of human survival. Our ancestors thrived on a diet rich in animal products, meat, fat, and organ meats. This was the foundation of their energy, strength, and health, providing essential nutrients like protein, iron, and omega-3 fatty acids. And guess what? Our bodies are still perfectly adapted to it. In fact, it's the very reason we developed the physical and cognitive abilities we have today. The protein and nutrients in meat support muscle development, brain function, and overall vitality, but somewhere along the way, things changed. Fast forward to the 20th century, and suddenly everything we knew about meat was turned upside down. How? Misinformation. A well-orchestrated campaign by the food industry, public health organizations, and government bodies started pushing an agenda that painted meat as a villain. It was all tied to corporate profits, more specifically the rise of processed foods and plant-based alternatives. They created fake narratives, twisting the facts about meat's health risks while promoting a plant-based revolution. What they didn't want you to know is that the real risk comes from the overconsumption of processed foods, sugars, trans fats, and chemicals that don't belong in your body. But by shifting the blame to meat, they distracted you from the real culprits.
Two studies out today that draw the same disturbing conclusion. Americans are not winning their battle against obesity. One study found that obesity rates for adults actually rose in 28 states this year. Only the District of Columbia showed a decline. So why is it that Americans keep getting fatter in spite of government efforts ranging from calorie posting to new school lunch programs?
Lady on on 60 Minutes, they interviewed her. She's some new woman who works in the White House. And they asked her about obesity. She said the #1 cause of obesity is genetics, and it doesn't matter what you do. Like you could be a person who has a perfect diet and exercises and sleeps right, and you're still obese. Mm-hmm. And the health experts went fucking nuts. Like that's not what the data shows.
And also, they don't ask the people to lift a finger to take care of their own health. Nobody's healthcare system is going to work unless you people have some skin in the game. You can't not tell the people, look, you can't keep eating as much as you want and as shitty a food as you want and expect us to cover the bill. You just can't.
I've only been eating meat for beef fundamentally for almost 5 years now. I never imagined in my wildest dreams, #1, that you could just live on meat, and #2, that it would have such a salutary effect. So for me, Guy lost 52 pounds in 7 months. I went from 212 pounds to 165, which is exactly what I weighed when I was 23. And I've maintained that weight since. I can put on muscle mass with no problem, even though I'm 62. I had a host of inflammatory conditions, some of which were quite serious, including peripheral uveitis, which sometimes blinds people, in my right eye, and it disappeared completely, along with psoriasis and gastric reflux disorder.
Let's talk about why meat is actually the best food for us. First, protein, the building block of life. Meat is a complete source of protein, containing all the essential amino acids our bodies need to build and repair tissues. No plant can match the biological value of animal protein. Meat is packed with vitamins like B12, a nutrient that's almost exclusively found in animal products and vital for your nervous system. Iron. The heme form of iron in meat is far more absorbable than the non-heme iron found in plants. And don't get me started on the healthy fats in meat, essential for brain function and hormone regulation. So how did this false narrative gain so much traction? The answer lies in clever marketing, corporate power, and skewed research.
This may seem like a simple family dinner, but there's nothing simple about dinner at the Watson home. Vicky's a vegetarian.
Vegan, actually. No dairy, no eggs, no honey, no refined sugars, no refined grains, no artificial sweeteners.
Peter the pescatarian has a thing for fish.
Sustainably caught only.
Flora is... What are you this week, Flora?
Flexitarian. That Steph is a thing.
Cody is a carnivore. But whatever their diets, there's tasty V2 plant-based meat, because...
We're all tastatarians.
That's right, Terry. It tastes as good as... beef. V2 plant-based meat for every tastatarian.
Media campaigns from big corporations made us believe that meat was dangerous while pushing their processed, plant-based alternatives. Even scientific studies were funded by the very companies that stood to profit from plant-based food sales. These campaigns manipulated the truth. The studies they funded only told part of the story.
The food pyramid was actually produced not by scientists or by MDs, although there were some MDs who were consulting, who were mostly ignored, but by the Department of Agriculture. And it was a marketing scheme, essentially.
And in many cases, ignored the real dangers of processed foods in favor of a plant-based utopia. But let's set the record straight. Meat isn't the problem. In fact, it's more essential for your health than ever. And no, we're not talking about processed junk meats like hot dogs or fast food. We're talking about fresh, high-quality cuts, grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, wild-caught fish, and the nutrient-dense organ meats that our ancestors thrived on.
So joining me now to talk about this is the author of The Big Fat Surprise, Nina Teicholz. It's an incredible book. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be talking about this. Dean Ornish, somebody that you talk about in the book, he thinks the book is dangerous because of a lot of the research that he's done. But I want to be clear on something. Are you saying in the book that meat doesn't increase bad cholesterol and some of these things we're told to avoid, or that the bad cholesterol itself wasn't as bad as was reported.
The reason that meat and cheese and dairy were condemned is because they contain saturated fats. The idea was saturated fats cause your cholesterol to go up. First it was total cholesterol, then LDL cholesterol, and that would clog your arteries and lead to a heart attack. It turns out that whole chain of events it's not what we understood it to be true. In numerous clinical trials that have been analyzed, reanalyzed since they were originally done, it just turns out that people with a higher saturated fat diet do not have a higher rate of heart attacks in the end.
So how do you suppose we got this so wrong? This is obviously, as you know, pretty prevalent thinking in the medical and nutrition communities.
Saturated fat has been the dietary culprit of the past 50, 60 years. And it really goes back to the 1950s when America was in the throes of the heart disease epidemic, which had risen out of nowhere to become the nation's #1 killer. President Eisenhower himself had a heart attack in 1955. One of the ideas about what caused heart disease was proposed by one scientist named Ansel Keys, who said that it was saturated fats. There were other ideas at the time, but Ansel Keys got that idea implanted into the American Heart Association, the nutritional guidelines of the American Heart Association in 1961, and it's like the rest is really history from there. It had never been tested, but when it became our dietary guidelines, it had never been tested.
It's time we stop listening to the misinformation and start embracing the truth. Meat is not our enemy, it's our ally. Through history, it's been our sustenance, our strength, and our health. It's time to take back control of our diets and our well-being. Don't let fake advertising dictate your choices. Subscribe to our channel for more eye-opening revelations about the foods you eat and the industries shaping your health.